Check 1 2 1 2. Looks like it's live now. There we go. This is an interesting problem. It wouldn't let me click the live button, but it works now. Exciting. Except this. Oh, you know what? I should probably... that's gonna look worse. Can you... Does this screen even show up? Actually, it does. Cool. Kind of. Not really. It's hard to see what's on it, so I guess it doesn't matter. It's FreeNAS. That's what's in... I took a screenshot of all this. We should move it... I can move it all over a little bit. And then this. Welcome to Vlog Thursday, episode 210. Actually, let's read this real quick. Better patch your UNVR. Yep. Lots of fun patching needs to happen. Sudo updates. And then for anyone who follows me, that was... Oh, man. Disconnected. All right, excellent. No idea why it dropped. So that's just strange. It's live again. Okay. Patch your vulnerabilities. Linux automation. Ansible. I'm patching stuff. That's what was taking so long. Yes? Yep. Let's see, 9 minutes to go. Happy Thursday, 60 seconds, no power cuts. Oh, that's right. The last time we had a incident with Comcast. That's right. Last time was from my house. Let's see. People waiting. There, look, everyone's here. Friday, woohoo! All kinds of stuff. Did we lose Tom? Briefly, yes. I'm caught up to where you lost me, and now I'm back. Yeah, I ate I was eating right up until, because the stupid... Matter of fact, I can show you guys what's going on here. I don't understand it. This is the plugin for... This is where you start and stop the stream. And up here is a little plugin I use for TubeBuddy, and it's stuck. And I've refreshed the screen. It keeps putting it over the top of the button, so it wouldn't... I had to get to the edge of the button to hit it. That is the dumbest problem ever, I know. But it is literally the problem that occurred. And I got all these wires tangled. I was really busy today, which was all meetings and fun and happy stuff. So they were the kind of meetings that were productive. They were, well, one, billable. That's always a good thing, right? So I had the billable meetings, and then after that, I had a sales meeting with one of my friends about doing another project, et cetera, et cetera. So lots of good stuff. What's the switch below the NVR? Which one? There's a UniFi. Those are both UniFi switches. I've reviewed both of them. One is the 10 gig. Is it XG6? It's the 10 gig PoE 6, 4-port. 6 ports, 2 SFPs, and 4 PoE ports. I've reviewed both of those. And the other one is the, I don't know the name of it. This is the UniFi USW Lite 16. So that's this one here. And today, this is going to be harder to show. I was having some Hell's Kitchen Chipotle chocolate. Chocolate and habaneros was why I had a little bit of burping. So, let's see. Let's see. Oh, no, don't. I have no intentions of switching to OpenSense. Sorry. Feel free to do it. You are more than welcome to. It is available for download. They had a new version release, as people like to tag me in this morning. That's fine. Use it if it makes you happy. I would probably agree if you were to ask me, do I like OpenSense versus like a USG or anything that UniFi makes? Absolutely. I would say if those are your choices, go that way. But if it's such a good thing, why do I need to make a video on it? I mean, at some point, I don't really, unless I have a compelling use case. This happens a lot when people ask me, like, will you make a video on this? I'm like, well, I don't use it. And this is the challenge when I don't use something. And I'm going to grab something I don't use very often. like this Aruba right here. And this is one of those problems. Like, I reviewed the Instant On. I've actually played with it again a couple times, and their dashboard is still garbage. Matter of fact, I was on the phone just before I started this with my friend who's an Aruba partner, and even he's confused by how Aruba offers things, and it's just some aggravation. But that's kind of the problem. I can't do in-depth videos unless I really take the time to learn them. And I don't just mean read the white papers. Deploy them. Run into whatever challenges you run into and really dive into a product. People say, hey, Tom, you got a good review on that. Well, I know. I use it all the time. I'm reviewing it from a in-depth use of it, not because I just read it a little bit. So when I start really putting something to use, even if I don't put it in full production use, I really run it through its paces. I really put a lot of time into products I use. Therefore, when you say like, hey, just use this OpenSense, I'm like, I don't really have time to switch if it doesn't offer any compelling reasons to switch, and especially if it's not something I plan to ever use in production, then my interest level in actually reviewing it goes down a bit. Now, I'm not going to say I won't review something that I may not use, because I do explore products all the time. I don't have any Nebula stuff in use, but I did the Nebula video because I just found it interesting, and I had such a great conversation with the founder of the Nebula software, the original author and his partner. Just had such a good conversation, so I played around with it and introduced it to a couple of my DevOps friends who we tossed ideas around, and I'm still in contact with the developer of it because I think it's a great product. It's very niche. It's not for everyone, but when I stood it up, I stood this up really easy. It's secure. It's simple. It has its faults, so to speak, with NAT, but that is an example of a product like that. All right. Is the Gamechanger cable outdoor rated? It does. They have versions for outdoor and indoor, and we should probably start there because, one of the problems with the Gamechanger cable that people kept bugging me about, so to speak, is they just kept telling me that fiber was better. And fiber is a different use case. This is the part that I couldn't. It's almost like I just wanted to facepalm reading all the discussions on it. There was some people that deleted their comments after I'm like, what are you not understanding, is how I started some of that, because I never try to be snarky with people, but they were just trying to argue with me that fiber would just be a better solution, and it's a terrible idea to offer this product, Tom. It's a horrible idea, and you shouldn't do it. And I don't understand that position, because it doesn't solve the problem for the client. And here's the challenge. If I'm bidding against you, and you are choosing to run fiber and have the client call an electrician to run power, because power doesn't go over fiber. So the problem with fiber is I have a long run, the one-off long run, and I have one camera or one access point that's on the far end of the building, and your solution means calling an electrician, running up the ladder, and we're talking, like I said, warehouse, because that's a great example of the problem, and you're going, I have a 150-foot run, or a 150-meter run, and that's 50 meters more than you can go, but 50 meters less than the maximum of 200 meters you can do with the Gamechanger cable. Therefore, it seems like a great solution to stick a Wi-Fi access point at the far end of a building or a camera at the far end of a building, because the alternative of running fiber, putting a switch in, having transceivers, and most importantly, call an electrician, have them run power out there, especially when you talk about a warehouse. They got to put the power in conduit. That adds costs. It's not insignificant. So by the time you're done with your bid for the electrician, plus the fiber run and a termination and a switch, it's going to cost more than buying some Gamechanger cable, which is only marginally more expensive than your standard Cat 6 cable. So it's, to me, a solution to have in your pocket. It's the argument of it's just fiber is just an all-around better way to do this. No. Now, the people are right. If you have to follow absolutes and go, I have to pass certification and length matters because it can't fail the length certification part of it, okay, you got me. That's fine. That is not something that comes up all the time with a lot of the bids we do. It's most of the time, matter of fact, anyone who works in cabling, unless you're working for specific maybe government bodies and things like that, it's not like everybody wants cable certifications. For example, my friends over at Ford have a requirement for it when they do the certifications. That was one of the requirements they had in each one of their data centers, that each part of the wire is all certified. When we've been subcontracted out to do the smaller sub-buildings, no one cares. I mean, they care that the wire works, but they don't want to pay the extra money for certification, so it ends up not happening. So that's my thoughts on some of the Gamechanger cable. The other thing that people kept trying to say is Gamechanger cable is just bigger gauge, and I'm like, that's a factor, but not the only factor. There is some other, I don't know exactly what, but some difference in the way they do the twisting of the wire. That means not just is it 22 gauge wire, which someone said Cat 7 is 22 gauge, and I'm like, actually, you're not correct. And I see that because it's not the standard for Cat 7, which I'm not going to debate the Cat 7, Cat 8 thing right now. But the Cat 7, for example, the specs are different, but 22 gauge is not one of the specs. It's just like 22 gauge is not one of the specs for Cat 6, but it can be. Cat 6 can be 22 gauge, and it can be 23 gauge, and it can be 24 gauge. Cat 6 will certify in different gauges, just like Cat 7 will. So it's not just a matter of the higher gauge. Now, the higher gauge is one factor. Quality of the copper you use is obviously, there's a purity level that has to be there, and then the way they twist it. The difference between grabbing any random cable that only says they'll do the full standard spec of 100 meters versus Gamechanger will guarantee they will do 200 meters. You have a company telling you that the cable has been tested. Therefore, when you run it, you're not guessing. Will the other cable work? Maybe. The cable company won't guarantee it. The difference is Gamechanger will. And like I said, I just want to bring it up as a tool that I think is relevant to a lot of the people who follow this channel that do wiring, that do cabling, and it's just something neat to have in your back pocket. So that's my rant or thoughts on it, and figured I'll get some of yours. I'll read backwards here. Hey, welcome people who made a live show. Yeah, there's probably some dielectric difference. There's probably some minor differences that are beyond the scope of what I know. Yes, when I say gauge, I'm referring to AWG. Am I saying gauge wrong? I always said it gauge. So it just comes down to wonder if Wonder Cable costs less. I don't know. Cat 8, 2 gigahertz solid, bare copper. You know, I don't know. I don't know if there is a matter of fact, that price right there for a 1,000-foot box of Cat 8 looks more expensive than it was for Gamechanger. Gamechanger has some prices you can dig around and find. The problem is they're not sold on Amazon because they're not a retail company. They do sell through all your major distributors, ADI, all your common like Gray Bar, your big commercial sellers of wire sell their cable. So be snarky. Some people need that. Yeah, sometimes. I'm never starting with, I think you're an idiot. I never start out like that. I don't like to be dismissive of people. I like to engage in intelligent discourse with them. But I also am just confused when they come at me telling me I'm a terrible IT person and how my solutions are a bad idea. And I don't know. I don't understand that particular thing. Anyways, that's my little rant on the Gamechanger cable. I think it's cool. Gamechanger is Cat 8? No, it's Cat 6. UniFi 6045 on CloudKey can't import sites. Yes, I did the video on that. I even did the follow-up video on that they fixed it. So couldn't import sites, now can import sites has been fixed. So those of you pointing that out. And I think I'm caught up on the questions, except for the ZFS one. By the way, make your questions easier to find. Send me some super chat money. It can be $1, it can be $2. It does cost money to run this channel, for those of you that didn't know. I don't mind when you, throw a little coin this way. Let's see. But the ZFS question, is there a general rule for ZFS if, example, 12 drives is good? No, there's not an easy general rule. I have an entire blog post and video about ZFS performance and integrity. I think that's what it's called. It's very complicated and it depends on your goals. So there's not a instant rule of thumb I can just hand you on that. There's plenty of opinions of that, but if you I linked to some of the people who are actual ZFS engineers, and I believe I linked to some of the write-ups from the folks over at IX Systems who are also, ZFS engineers who understand this at a very deep level, which the weirdest argument people have, someone like IX Systems will take the time to do an in-depth write-up and explain in detail ZFS and pools, and then someone will find some forum post from 2008 and go in, but Joe somebody and some forum post has one single post where they said everything's wrong and no follow-up. And I'm like, I don't know. Let's weigh credibility here. IX Systems, who publishes it out, or the forum post from years ago with no follow-up other than it's all wrong. You should do it different. So I will at least say that there's I trust that FreeNAS and them do it. So anyways, there's not an easy rule of thumb. It's not, I made that video so it kind of walks through all the different scenarios. It does kind of answer the question, but it starts with use case. And then I need to make a follow-up video because it gets more complicated. Wendell did a video about some of the magic ZFS data sets and using metadata caches. That video led me to, and Wendell mentions it in that video, but it led me to do some testing that I haven't had a chance to finish. But for all your decisions related to ZDevs and pools and widths, the next question you have is some of the block sizes you can set within ZFS, because that matters. And that question comes in, what's the size of your data sets? There are substantial swings in performance just on certain tuning options on data set sizes. The way it defaults is always in the middle, but you can actually get way better performance if you're like video editing, if you swing it to the larger block size, and it gets way better performance if you have a lot of small files on the smaller block size. Then when you have a mix of them, that's what Wendell's video covers, is how to handle a metadata in a mixed format when you don't want to split data sets. But the better option is actually to split data sets and optimize each data set for the type of data that's going into it. Now I just added an entire set of variables on top of your ZFS width that's going to have you going, oh, that's got harder, didn't it? It's not hard in terms of, will each one store with strong resiliency? Yes. Which one's the most optimized for your workload? That's where you're going to have the bigger challenges on there, because you can just do a 12 wide and it works perfectly fine. You can set like a 12 wide Z2 across, so you have 2 drives of failure and redundancy, and it'll work perfectly fine. You're actually going to maximize your storage overall that way, and it's fine. It's just not going to be the most optimized for a specific workload. But sometimes it's not workload, it's size that you want. You need more capacity than you do workload. You're like, I just need access to a 50 terabytes of this data. I don't need it to be any much faster than a 10 gig pipe can ship it to me. And if you think about movie streaming, especially if you're just building a home movie server, even if you have 5 TVs going, you can still do that on a 1 terabyte connection pretty easily. All right. Let's catch up to the bottom. There you go, JSB. Thank you for the donation. That looks like £5 there. That translates to $6.87 US. Thank you. All right. Gauge, not gauge. Oh, yeah, there you go. Gauge sounds fine to English ears. All right. Router and router, yes. Has your company ever done residential new home construction? Yes, we tend to shy away from it, but we've done it. We have some businesses that the owners have built new houses, and we have done their houses. They're different to work with, and they're kind of a pain when you have to go back and forth to do the wiring. What I mean by that is like, hey, we're ready for you to come out and hang out at the same time roughly as the electricians while the walls don't have drywall. Then you got to come back, though, after the drywall's in to cut all the spots out to put the wires and pull them through. Like, you get them in there before the walls are up, and then you come back later after the drywall's up. And it's the same thing doing business construction. It just makes it a little bit trickier to do. Now, when it's not new construction and walls are finished, I don't like going into houses at all. Well, let's see. Every time I come here, it's like a different planet. Fair enough. Lots of stuff to process. Yep, probably. UniFi Protect for home use. Actually, probably I recommend it a lot for home users because it's a great basic system. So I think it's actually a decent system for home. I mean, I've complained about it before, but they do require registration. as long as you're willing to accept that. I preach awareness of these type of things. And I bring that up because like someone doesn't like their Ring doorbell very much and they switched to UniFi and told me how much they liked it. And I was like, that's cool. And I understand, like they think the UniFi is better, but they switched from a cloud storage system to a local storage system. So there is an improvement in some ways. They already were accepting of the fact that it requires a registration and activation with UniFi's cloud controller to work. If that is not a problem for you, then awesome. If it is a problem for you, you shouldn't use it. I don't think the system's inherently terribly bad. It seems to work fine, but obviously some people don't like that aspect of it. Nope, I'm not moving to Odyssey or library. People ask, I'm saying no. Don't have a use case for that. It's not worth my time is the biggest thing about Odyssey and library. I looked at them. I'll comment on this, and I thought about doing a reply video because there's a couple people that think they should just they can will it into existence by replying. So I'm going to make a video and reply why I'm not on Odyssey and other platforms. The big problem with them right now is I took some big YouTubers who have a couple of them that have like 800,000 subscribers, 900,000 specifically in the tech market. And they're barely getting 100 views on the video. So one, no comments, which is fine because that's one of the problems I have. If I upload it somewhere else, I don't have time to track the comments. Two, they're big enough to have like 100,000 views or more on their videos on YouTube, and they're getting like 100 or 200 views on library. I don't see it as a viable thing. And the other aspect of it is you end up next to a bunch of ranting crazy people that have been kicked off YouTube for being ranting and crazy. I just don't want to be next to all those videos. Next up on this video, ranty crazy person telling you crazy things. So I just don't have any interest in being around that. Brand association. So I'll probably make a video explaining it in more depth sometime, and then it'll just be my default reply. Watch this video. I could change. Maybe some other platform will come up. I have looked at other platforms. I know I mentioned, like I looked at the Floatplane Linus Tech Tips platform, but they don't want me over there. Let's see. Zoltan, I think you said your name right. Do you have experience in MikroTik? Initially, I wanted UDM, but changed my mind and thinking of doing MikroTik because the flexibility and support. Flexibility, maybe support. That's where, to me, MikroTik is. They just are more complicated. They are not as easy to use as UniFi. There's just no way about it. This is one of the reasons people bug me. I get so many people asking forums, please do more MikroTik videos, and people messaging me on Twitter, please do more MikroTik videos. I can't figure out how this thing works. I spent some time with MikroTik. I'm not sure how it works sometimes either. Some things in MikroTik, like the Switch OS, I actually think is good. Once you go back to Router OS, I'm not saying you can't get something done. I'm just saying it's not easy. And the joke that everyone seems to have is they call it, oh, it's just Latvian logic. It's weird. It's weird the way you do it, but if you do it this weird way, it will work. And I'm like, oh, okay. I guess I don't feel like vesting the time to learn the weird way the Latvian logic works, that seems to be the common term. It's not trying to deprecate the people that wrote it, but hey, I'm not trying to put them down, but hey, everyone just calls it that. Like it does weird things and has a ton of weird submenus to set things up. And staring at it, I said, I don't really get it. And therefore, I'd have to take a lot of time to learn it to then teach it to you. There's less interest in it. So it's not anything I think is terrible if you want to use it. If you want to take the time to learn it, I think it's a solid thing to learn. The WISP industry, the wireless internet service providers, really seem to like it because of its price. I think the price is compelling. I like the Switch OS because I think it's relatively easy to use, but still, and I did a video about VLANs and Switch OS. When you look at how many steps there are, it's not something insurmountable to learn, but it is more steps than it is in UniFi, for example. UniFi made some of the network functions easier, therefore people like them. I get it. And if you compare that to Cisco, Cisco has its own way of doing things that also is a little bit more complicated. obviously Cisco's taken the time to create all kinds of documentation, and they have their own things that Cisco people are like, yeah, it does that. You know, sometimes there's quirkiness you may find with Cisco, but once again, Cisco's documentation and the amount of support you'll find for Cisco is probably going to be more substantial than you would for MikroTik, but MikroTik's price is much better than Cisco. So I don't think it's necessarily a bad solution. There's also a forum post about MikroTik switches where someone outlined something I wasn't as aware of. There's a lot of discrepancies and confusion in model numbers and reliability of certain models and bugs with certain models. Even though they have the same model number, it's the board versions that have problems. I don't understand it completely, but this person is a big MikroTik fan that posts in my forums. They understand it better than me and did a nice write-up on there. So they could even be here now watching live. So that's another thing that may be a little bit of a challenge, because if there's some inconsistencies, it can add to the confusion. All right. Oh, good thing there are no crazy people on YouTube. There are certainly a few of them. There's still some of them here. Whiny ragey person. It's a good name. Okay, someone says I had to work with them to get a custom firmware. Yeah. Now that's a whole nother thing. I mentioned that before on the little 10 gig MikroTik when it comes to layer 3. One problem with MikroTik and layer 3. Does it work? Yes, it supports it. Then you look at the speed at which it supports it, you're like, oh, this was kind of a gimme on the box and not something I would actually use in production because it's too slow. I'm like, yeah, does it support layer 3 and VLAN? Sure, but does it work well? Well, not really. I also know there's a ton of misinformation about MikroTik. Someone tried to insist that the MikroTiks had Wi-Fi in that little one I reviewed, and I laughed because here's what's weird. When you go into Router OS doesn't seem to be aware completely of the device it's on. And what I mean by that, it doesn't remove menus if those menus don't work on that device. That makes it nice from MikroTik standpoint. They load the same software on different devices. The downside is, if the device doesn't have features, it's still in the menu. So you have to understand the device you're on to understand whether or not the feature is supported just because there's a menu for it. I thought that was a little bit strange. It seems like they would just gray out all the menus, or better yet, don't show menus for things that aren't available on a particular device. I don't know. Maybe that's me being me, but MikroTik does things the way they do it. Thank you, Jordan, for the donation. Much appreciated. MikroTik has actual tech support. UniFi's tech support's terrible. I'm not going to lie. I have part of my business is doing tech support for UniFi. I won't lie, there's no secret. That's a big piece of what we do. When I say you want to hire us for a project, people hire us for UniFi projects all the time. Zyxel. Oh, the company that embeds backdoors. I have looked at the company that embeds that backdoors, Zyxel. Their poor coding practices make me think I don't like to use their products. So looking at them, sure, I'm aware of Zyxel. I would not use. I don't think they're a quality product. I never have. I've used them years ago in the past. They're not something I particularly am fond of. They're always been the budget solution I've seen a lot of people using. I mean, if you want it, like I said, I think the MikroTik switches are good with Switch OS, and I've even covered that. Open. Oh, I didn't even know Open WRT worked on MikroTik. That's interesting. Yeah, Switch OS. I thought about getting some more of the MikroTik switches because I want to do some for a home lab video. Because hands down, if you need a inexpensive 10 gig connectivity switch, not just that little one I have, but even some of the other ones that have, like a 24 port with 10 gig, MikroTik has a niche of low cost switches that are, if you're trying to build out a home lab, the only thing you can do better is buy some used equipment from another brand. MikroTik, hands down, for buying new, has got some really good prices on switches. So definitely, I liked some of theirs. Yeah, I see someone mention that the MikroTik, and I'm assuming it's a switch. that they bought through there. So cool. Oh, okay. We got Ivan Low too. Glad to have found Jay. Thank you for the donation, Ivan. And you glad to found Jay for my channel. Really up my Linux abilities after just a few tutorials. Awesome. Jay has a new book out, by the way, so that's of note as well. So Jay's got his book out. Me and Jay actually hang out every Tuesday talking tech and diving deep into things. Yes, I mentioned that before. And me and Jay talked this time a little bit about maybe we should we're going to start, we do have some plans to do some videos together. I got to get kind of unburied off some of the projects that I got going here. What is the kit on the desk? We're going to get to that in a second. Let me catch up with the questions. One more crazy thing, if you export a config and import in a different model, all your interfaces are messed up and you had to figure out which port is which. Yeah. MakerTik is loaded with questions. We have 3,000 devices in the field. Be prepared to go on a deep dive. Yes. All right. Thank you, Nathan Cook, for the $10 donation. Just installed a Netgate SG2000 on my home. Awesome. Thank you for your great videos, getting it all set up. I ditched the UniFi USG for it. So much easier. My UniFi APs and switches play nicely with it. Yep, that's a common configuration. Even in my house right now, I'm actually using a combination of Aruba, UniFi, and Netgate. So I'm doing it partly because I wanted to sit down and dive into and do some more videos on some of the ArubaFi Instant On stuff. So I set it up at my house, but then I got busy. Oh, okay, you can customize. I didn't know you can customize the menus on the MakerTik to show different things. That's interesting. Like I said, I think there's a solid use case for the MakerTik, and people in the if you standardize on a platform and you're someone who is willing to take the time to have a team that learns it and understands it and builds out configs for it, you can do a lot with it. It's not impossible. It's the learning curve. And when you just directly compare them to UniFi, you're comparing, something that's generally a lot easier to use. There we go. Look at that. So you can see what's happening. We're going to just pull the power supply out because that's the favorite way to turn off a FreeNAS system. Because, yeah. Now, we can use keys to turn this one back on. Or not. Hold on. I had something. Oh, I can fire it up with this. Let's see if I shorted it out or know what pin it is. I think it's this pin. There we go. Came back on. So this is a TrueNAS system right here. And before I had gotten distracted with a few projects today, I was working on doing the torture testing video and backup restore video. I'm going to do the stuff that you wonder what would happen if. I haven't done one of those in a while. So I'm going to show you how to back one of these up, what happens when you swap drives around, and I'm going to do it all on TrueNAS 12. And I built this out a little bit for some of this testing because, you're probably wondering what happens if you yank a drive out, but you're probably not wanting to do that to one of your own drives. I am. I have a lot of them. I have a lot of equipment laying around. So I will be doing some of these videos. And we're not going to do it to this motherboard, but we did one video, and someone says, didn't you do a video where you poured water on one? Yes, and I'll probably do that again too, just to show complete crazy failure scenarios and how to recover from them in TrueNAS, because it's more fun. The wonky sticker is triggering. We could always stop it, overheat the processor, and see what happens there. There, I'll just stop the fan. Whoops, that wasn't good. Well, the fan appears to be completely stopped. There we go. ZFS sledgehammer time. Yes. That's a good... See, there's a misconception of how the encryption works. And so how to duplicate encrypted pools is different than you probably think. And the big reason why is... Make sure I can log in. Did I set the password for this? Oh, good, I did. I don't even know if I created any pools yet. Probably not. Storage. Oh, good, there's pools. All right. When you have, and these are encrypted drives, there's a encryption key in here. So actually, where is there? Export, scrub, status, expand. We want to go here, encryption options, and we want to move it to a passphrase, which we'll just set it to the same passphrase it has for the login. Copy password. Now we're changing it. Confirm. Oh, I got to move the data set. Hold on. Where's else? Right here, system data set. Can I? Yep, I'll save that to the boot pool. I'll be detailing this out in a video what I'm doing, but we'll get to the misconceptions here in a second after we switch where the syslog is. Confirm, save. All right. Now, these drives are now password encrypted. So let's reboot the system. That was like rebooting FreeNAS like that, you know, because it's ZFS. And then we'll fire it back up and answer questions. Whoops. All right. Letter opener. You can start up a FreeNAS with a letter opener. And while that's booting, we'll watch it boot over here. I'll answer questions. Yes, not how water cooling works. You'd be correct. I have not had bad luck with... I think we've had like one... I mean, we do a lot of them. I think we had a 3100 go bad. I think it was a 3100 we had a problem with once. It's rare. It died while in setup too. It died early in its life, and it was strange. Out in the field, we've had very, very few of them fail over the years. I would complain because honestly, I would run it on my own hardware if I thought their hardware wasn't good. But I do run it on hardware. Matter of fact, we here run on an SG5100. We've deployed a lot of those, and I've always liked it. But back to the encrypted hard drive, so I can answer the question for someone. The encryption, the drives are encrypted right now. So it's going to boot. It's going to have the encryption. When I send the data to another FreeNAS, like the one sitting back there, when I send the data there, same thing. It's going to be encrypted in transport to where it lands. Now, whether or not it's encrypted over there matters based on if I set those pools up to be encrypted. It does not take the encrypted data and just drop it over there and encrypt it. It has to decrypt it. It has to be in a readable state to understand the data. So right now we're going to go back into the FreeNAS now that it's booted back up, and we're going to put the data back in a readable state. So go here. I'm going to log in. We go to the pool. The pool is in a locked state. And we're going to unlock that pool. Put the passphrase in. And it was unlocked. So now we have an unlocked data set with, well, there's no data in here right now. Now it's unencrypted. While it's encrypted, I can't back it up. Now it is in a unlocked state. The key has been loaded into memory and it's unlocked. So that means any data, any tools I'm using for replication can now read the data to send it to its new home. You have to encrypt where you land it. So if I log into another FreeNAS server and I want to send this data to said FreeNAS server, I have to land that data on an encrypted drive. If I don't, it's going to land there unencrypted. That's where the misconception comes out. You have to have the data in an unencrypted state, so the key loaded in memory, in order to read the data, because it has to understand the data, not encrypted blobs. It has to understand the data because it has to do a differential. I want to do a backup. How much of that backup exists over here? Well, the differential. For example, ZFS snapshots. ZFS snapshots are differentials between the last time it was snapshot. Then we take that ZFS snapshot and we're going to send it over to the other drive. But I can't see the difference unless I understand. Now, even though it's at the block level, it does have to be unencrypted. That's the advantage also, by the way, of ZFS snapshots are doing things at a block level, like a file system level. and that's what allows it to send the data over there. So hopefully that makes it a little bit clear that for each pool you plan to replicate to, whether they're local to the machine or remote, like behind me, the pools that you build all need to be encrypted. So hopefully that makes sense to the person that asked the question. I have a power button I can plug into the motherboard. It's in the other room. I'm old school, man. I like sticking pieces of metal near my motherboard in order to fire up a motherboard. I mean, buttons? That's too fancy for me sometimes. I'm not ready for things like that. Who is the friend I'm referring to? Learn Linux TV is the friend I'm referring to. LearnLinux.tv is his website, and you can find his YouTube channel there, which goes by the same name, and his book, which is not the same name. It's called like Ubuntu Server. It's Ubuntu Server book. Is his latest edition of his Ubuntu Server book. I can't remember Ubuntu Server. I should know. Well, hold on. I know how to know. I can go to his website, and we'll share with the class here. Learn Linux TV and Mastering Ubuntu Server. There we go. That is Jay's new book. So this is Jay's website. These are all Jay's videos. And of course, you can just view them directly on YouTube as well. And there you go. Jay has a great new series on a lot of things. He is really, really talented at teaching you DevOps Linux stuff. He's got a very concise way of doing it, obviously, because he wrote a book about it. And yeah, if you actually follow his old videos, you'll notice they were done at my shop. Because someone actually had asked if he was trying to rip me off. I'm like, no, he literally was using my office. Like, that's, yeah, me and him are friends. I've known him for a while. I helped him copy everything I had here, so to speak, and he finally built his own studio dedicated. So, yeah, he spends time doing really solid tutorials on it. Mastering Ubuntu Server. Yep. Yeah, I think he's got some newer Docker ones, and I know he's got some newer Ansible ones too. Really good at all that stuff he does on that. But I was back to why all this is in front of me and stuff that's in my list here. But the whole TrueNAS thing, yeah, this is something I'll be doing some more demos on and torture testing. And like I said, I want to make sure people are clear that they know what they have to back up, because it's really important that you back these up. Unfortunately, and I had to email someone that contacted us, they didn't back up their encryption keys. And if you don't back up your encryption keys, I can't help you. And someone, yeah, I've had a few people get upset, like, what do you mean you can't help? I just lost my encryption keys. I mean, surely you can brute force it. I seen some CIA or government agency, they always can get the data back. I'm like, no, this is really good encryption, really well done. You are dealing with a high quality encryption system. If you lose the keys to it, you will also lose all the data that goes with it. It cannot be expressed enough how important it is to back up said encryption keys. Good news is they make backing up these encryption keys relatively easy. But if you don't do it, if the encryption keys are lost, and currently the encryption keys are only stored on this one single hard drive right here, and if this one single hard drive were to go bad, because even though there's two hard drives dangling, I didn't connect both of them, and you have the boot pool with the encryption key on it, and it goes away, it goes away. The data is now a bunch of ones and zeros that there's no way to rearrange back into a cohesive, proper order to bring back your data. He started making, David said he has some redundant videos. There is some redundancy because he makes new versions. That's also why his website is, and I'm doing some of the same things because I have some of the same issues. He has it even more so, but the tutorials need to get updated when different versions, but not always the entire tutorial. So it becomes redundant when you look at it from YouTube, but when you go here to his website, he's organizing them all. Me and Jay have been working together. I'm actually working on a similar thing. I'm making all these pages on my new site that's dedicated to my YouTube channel to help people always find the latest version. So basically, if I do have multiple versions, and I guess this is the next question, should I get rid of the old version? What if someone still needs a reference from the way it used to work? I will make the website always have the latest version, but should I necessarily get rid of the older version? What I do plan to do is run through all my older videos and reference the newer version. So I don't mind doing that, but I don't know if I should delete the old version. But then I can tell people, look, if you want the latest version of a particular tutorial or all my consolidated topics, for example, TrueNAS, what I said, should I get rid of my TrueNAS 11 videos would be a perfect example. You can still use TrueNAS 11. Lots of people are. Do I get rid of those videos? There are things that are different in TrueNAS 12. So I think I should have both of them. And then I can list all the latest TrueNAS videos on a website like this. And then I can have maybe a subcategory for TrueNAS 12 versus a FreeNAS category and group them together. It's kind of a challenge because Jay has done a little bit better job of organizing things than I have, but I realized that's one of my problems. I have 1,100 videos, and they're only indexed on YouTube, which is not necessarily the easiest way to find them. So we're going to organize all of my videos into consolidated pages on a dedicated web page. It's been a project that we've been working on for a little while here, and obviously when you have 1,100 videos, that takes a little time to organize them all and build it all out because we want to do it right. So hopefully that makes a little bit of sense. Yeah, there's a mistake that we control the ads on the videos. The ads on the videos are controlled by YouTube. So other than sponsored spots where Jay, for example, has some sponsorship from, I think, Linode, other than his ad read for Linode or any other ad reads he may have, if you see a bunch of commercials, that's YouTube. YouTube has to pay for all that server time, all that sweet server time you like of watching all these videos. If you don't like them, I understand the ad monetization model, so I don't mind paying a monthly fee to avoid ads on YouTube. I'm actually a big fan of it. It's one of those things like, cool. I don't have a cable subscription. I cut the cord in 2009 was the last time I had cable TV. So to me, the few dollars I pay for an ad-free experience on YouTube, perfectly fine with it. It's so much less than cable TV. And honestly, I like YouTube way better than cable TV. Adding HTTPS to TrueNAS. I tweeted about the new root CVE. I didn't feel as though it needed a video. apt-get update. Like, just update it. I mean, people asking for a video on some things I sometimes don't understand because just update it. Do I have a video on HTTPS? Here, I'll do it right now. This is your video for HTTPS. Right here, FreeNAS default. You can just, I think it's right here. Yeah, you'll just tell to, there we go. Checkbox, web interface, HTTP to HTTPS, hit save. Restart web service. And it'll log us in via HTTPS. I just built the server, so that box was not checked yet. There we go. All right, there's your HTTPS. And then you go up here. It's going to have an invalid cert. I have an HA proxy video of how to fix certificates, but that's how you get HTTPS on TrueNAS. Hopefully that helps. I do have a Patreon, but unfortunately, I don't know what to do. Now, this is a different problem. I wouldn't mind offering some type of subscription service so you can watch my videos without ads. I'm not exactly sure how to do that because I would have to find a separate, not YouTube. See, YouTube inserts the ads, not me. So in order for me to sell a subscription without ads, this is why I was looking at places like Floatplane. Building it yourself is a bit of a challenge. I did think about doing it. I know there's companies that offer it. They're just not cheap. And it's not like the money goes to me. A big part of it goes into them. So you'll be like, oh, I don't think I want to pay $20 a month to Tom. I don't know. And I'm like, Tom makes $2 a month. And the rest of it's fees for hosting. And yeah, I haven't found an easy solution. You need someone to build something large and scalable. That's why I was looking at Floatplane, for example. I'm not. It might be one of the ones. Maybe they'll change your mind over at Linus Media Group that I'm worthy. But it's not easy for me to do. If I look for the smaller ones, it has a very high cost. If you consolidate your hosting with someone like Floatplane, it has a much lower cost. And I would like to offer an easy solution. Honestly, though, from big picture point of view, as much as I do support some of the YouTube people I like over via Patreon, to me, the ad-free experience is great. I pay YouTube the $10 a month, I think it is, and I get an ad-free experience on YouTube as a whole, where lots of things that I watch are not just one thing. That way I can watch anything I like on YouTube without having to deal with with an ad roll. So to me, that's, and by the way, you're not cutting me out of anything, because yes, I do make money off the ads, full disclosure. There is some money that goes to the creators and some money goes to YouTube. But even if you are subscribing to the YouTube, which used to be called YouTube Red, which always cracked me up, but the YouTube ad-free experience, they do give me a percentage of that as well. Just so you know. I don't know what to do with my Patreon. I do appreciate people who donate to it because it does help fund things. The other side of it, though, right now, I will admit, I don't have a lot of offering on it, but I'm open to suggestions of what I should do on Patreon. ButterFS on a single hard drive. Cool. I don't use ButterFS much. What about S3 buckets? What about them? That's not, I mean, I know they exist, so... Am I actually all caught up? I wasn't able to get a fully qualified domain name working with Beehive. Oh. I mean, you have to set up a fully qualified domain name. Why would you? I don't really recommend. I don't know what. Why, like we'll talk briefly about Beehive. I've not recommended it as a hypervisor. I know you can run VMs in FreeNAS. It's never been the strong suit of FreeNAS. That's why I don't do videos on it. So I'm not going to be a lot of help in it. I've always found it kind of hokey, awkward, and not wonderful. I don't know. That's probably the best way to describe it. Yeah, not ideal. How's that? So I can't help you much with that. Oh, S3 buckets for video distribution? Yeah, I could do that. Back to the expense. The volume of data it takes to pull all those, I mean, yeah, S3 buckets racks up quite a bill. When you look at the bandwidth costs, and this is what, it took Floatplane a long time to launch. They realized the bandwidth costs are huge. Matter of fact, it's kind of a joke that YouTube doesn't break out its revenue model from Google natively because they're kind of piggybacking. It's hard for them to be an independent platform because they piggyback off Google's data system in order to be able to control the costs it takes to have that much bandwidth. When I look at some of my videos with 500,000 views and they're an hour long, think about how much data that is going out. It's a lot. And not to mention YouTube adds a massive amount of geography caching that I would not be able to do because 54% of my overall audience is in the United States. That's it, 54%. That means if I put an S3 in the bucket system here in the US, I serve the US audience, which is more than half my audience, but then I'm leaving short the European audience who's pulling it across the US. YouTube takes care of that automatically and dynamically by having caching servers that are local to different areas. So it's, yeah. So would I stop being a business and be media only? So media is not exactly the way I would describe myself. Content creator, yeah. Media, I'm not an entertainer per se. Maybe some people find me amusing, but I'm not here as an entertainer creating media. I'm here as a person who creates a lot of tech tutorials. So maybe you would look at me more on the category of a trainer or a teacher or someone who gives out instruction. Would I do that full time? I could. it would be less interesting to me to do it, because the joy I have is I get to play with and deploy solutions out in the field. I bring you my real world experience doing it. To me, that's an edge. If I'm wrong, let me know. I'm always interested when someone says, I think it'd be better, Tom, if you just made videos all day and didn't take time to do actual deployments and actual business. But to me, being there, doing this and working with companies and deploying solutions is what gives me more insight into the products, how they're used, and how to share that knowledge back out. So to me, I don't ever see it as a teaching only type thing. You look at Jay's channel as another example. Jay has a job still. He makes a lot of YouTube videos, but he has a job. You know what he does? He works on Linux servers a lot. He actually has some management stuff he does too, but related to managing people who work on Linux servers. So his understanding of the things he does are not because he just wrote a book or read a manual. It's because he's been deploying servers and actively using these things to do something. I mean, granted, I could always stand up all kinds of fun toys and practice myself in my own little lab, but I think there's an edge when you see going, oh, Tom deployed, I did a video where I talked about deploying more than 300 UniFi. I can't talk about deploying large-scale projects or the challenges that come with them unless I deploy large-scale projects and the challenges that come with them as a experience, and then share that experience back out. So I don't really see myself necessarily only in that market. So striped mirror VDEV's a good idea. They can be good for performance. Yes, AWS has CDN, so does CloudFront. Once again, you start looking at the time and effort it takes me to build all of that. It's not like just turnkey, drop it on there. You have to put structure around it. Yes, they have a CDN as a component, and that's what some of these other structure companies offer. It all comes at an expense. There's not a zero cost to it. It's way cheaper to do this on YouTube. That's one of the reasons YouTube does it. Also, discoverability. There's plenty of people that have created all kinds of learning sites. There's actually, I think it's TIL Vids. They've been trying to get off the ground for a while. I'll give them a shout out because they seem to have a neat thing. They've reached out to me and I said, well, it looked interesting. I thought it was cool. There's very few views on it, but I know they've had their own struggles of getting that up and running, and discoverability is still like zero on there. That's why they're trying to bring people like me over there. There's been so many companies trying to compete with YouTube. The biggest problem is discoverability. You wander over to a new platform, you get no audience, no views, and you release new videos and nobody notices. Then you come back over to YouTube and you're like, oh, look, I got 4,000 views in the first day. It's a big difference. Pop OS. If you want to use Manjaro, do it if it makes you happy, but I like Pop OS. I've seen WatchNebula.com. I've not used it. Legal Eagle is on there. That's one of the YouTube channels I like, and I believe they promote it a lot. Well, Nebula is made by YouTube creators. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I think the Nebula one is one among the ones I looked at, because I would probably just keep posting on certain platforms. But once again, I mean, I like to be diverse. Just as a business owner, you always think about, you don't rely everything on one single platform if you can avoid it. But sometimes when there's just no viable alternative, you keep doing it here. Now, I keep a copy of all my videos. So if for some reason or something comes up in the market, I can actually take the backlog of all my videos and push them up somewhere else. I completely have no problem doing it. I have backups of all of them, like years and years of videos. A lot of them wouldn't get re-uploaded because they're bad, but that's a different topic. But I have backups of my videos. I can move to another platform when I find one. So I don't look at it as all my eggs in one basket. It's just the fact that there's not another basket available that is as viable as YouTube. Vimeo is probably a close second because they do offer paid services. I have friends that sell videos on Vimeo. I was told they have a pretty cool platform for that to allow subscriptions, and they have a scalable, nice system with no ads in it to be able to do that. They've been around for long enough that they seem to be able to, they've weathered the storm. Vimeo's been around for a long time. Why Pop OS? I don't know why it crashes for you, but it doesn't crash for me. You'd have to probably look into why it crashes, because There is no operating system that is absolutely perfection and never crashes. Sorry, I wish there was, but there's not. I do find Pop! OS to be quite stable, which is why I use it. It doesn't mean you don't have some piece of hardware that is causing some conflict, either because the hardware is bad or the hardware is incompatible, that is causing the crashing. I don't know. That's a different problem. Yeah, Floatplane didn't want me. I'm not cool enough for Floatplane. Yeah, there's a hub platform. There should be a version of it called Tech Hub. I think they understand how to compete. That's what we're going to call the next episode, Tech Hub. They certainly have a platform that can scale. What do you think about Synology storage products? I like them. I have reviewed several Synologies. I'm going to be reviewing some more Synologies. So definitely, I'm a fan. After a year and a half of Tesla ownership, I really like my Tesla. So I still, I keep debating about follow-up videos because they feel off-brand to my channel. That's why I haven't done them. And it's been cold out now, so I don't know. It's not that my enthusiasm isn't there. It just, me and Chris from Crosstalk have talked about this. Chris hasn't done many videos on his Tesla for kind of the same reason. It's kind of like it's when you do things that are one-off to your channel, here's some insight and statistics we get from YouTube. Here's some learning lessons. I get to learn how many people left because I made a video. That's a thing where people unsubscribe. Why do they unsubscribe? Because the channel keeps telling them content that they don't care about. So if I do content that is outside of the content of why people subscribe, you lose subscribers. So when I do car videos, those lost me subscribers, for example. Matter of fact, it's been one of those stats you start looking at, going, every time I post this video, I lose a bunch more people. And it also tells you how many you gain, but sometimes the gains are not as good as, they're not quite what the losses are. And you're like, wow, this wasn't neutral. A lot of people don't like when I post this video. I got a lot of thumbs down because it's just not on brand for the channel. So, yeah. That's what Thursdays are for, to talk about all these things. Yeah, no, Chris did a second channel for the Tesla, and you just don't get any views on it because that becomes the other problem. If you don't commit to constantly posting on said channel, it doesn't get views. And we had this problem with the How They Got Hacked channel. When we didn't have that many views, you could type in perfect descriptions that matched our titles, and you couldn't find our videos. Not only are our videos not showing up or trending until forever, it took like 6 months, you could type in the exact title, and they wouldn't even show up in the search results. So it's really hard to start a new channel. So, yeah. It's something I've thought about, but unless I want to commit to doing it and put on there, I don't know. I don't know enough about Nebula to answer all those questions. I've not dove deep into it. I'm aware that it exists. Oh, yeah, then, of course, people... I had my Tesla before Linus did, so screw those people. It's kind of a no-win situation sometimes. It's also figuring out my time. It takes time to put together videos and things like that. I might do one more Tesla video. I just don't want to do a lot of them. But, yeah. Tutorials on subnetting. Not really. That's so basic. I think that there's so many people have covered it. It is a fundamental concept that is extremely important. But I think so many people have covered subnetting. I don't know that there's another subnetting video needed. I don't have anything more compelling to say on the topic of subnetting. I think it's important to learn it. I know when you search it, there's so many videos on there that me doing one more video on subnetting doesn't seem as necessary. It's not like I'm trying to fill a market gap on it. And Mac Telecom Networks knows he's a YouTuber. It takes a lot of time. There's a lot of hours that go into the production and putting together of all these things. So, yeah, there's that. Looking for an alternative to UFW. I don't have any problems with UFW, so I'm not looking for an alternative myself. So use whatever makes you happy. I don't know what problem you're having with UFW. Now, I definitely got the question of what's up with the light in the parking lot, because I'm looking, I see myself, and I start looking above myself, because above myself is the monitor that shows me what's in the camera, and that light's funky. There's something going on back there for sure. Is TrueNAS scale going to be worth the wait? I think it's going to make the Docker crowd happy, because that's really the reason people like it, is the Docker thing, and it's going to be based on Linux, so certain hardware compatibility. Is it worth the wait? I mean, do you want to run Docker in your TrueNAS system? I think for a lot of people, the answer is probably yes. It's going to be better than jails. Not that jails and Docker aren't similar to each other so much, it's the support. There's way more Docker images than there are jail images. Bottom line, there is a broader support for Docker. Therefore, with so many more options and out there, the fact that it would support Docker is probably the number one reason people are excited, because now they have a system that they can just run everything in, grab some Docker containers, and away they go. So I think TrueNAS Scale is going to be very popular for that. But yeah, it's going to take some time to get all that right. It's not, there's a lot of challenge in there. Yeah, hardware compatibility is definitely, you know, oh, yeah, just the compatibility. Like, I see someone else posted that as well. UniFi, the UniFi controller update. Yes, there's definitely been a UniFi controller update. I've done 3 videos on it. So that's, look at my videos. I'm going to hold off on a deep discussion on the pfSense announcement. Their blog post is public. I kind of see where they're going with it. I'm going to do a dedicated video on it. I still think, even with said announcement, as Kyle fixed the camera, I will do a dedicated video on it so I can be very, very clear about the overall. But you know, I've commented in the forums, there's a lot of challenges and a lot of nuance, and I still think, hands down, pfSense has been one of the most reliable and secure firewalls of any of the ones we use. And they've just been a really, really reliable performer with a lot of features. And I talk about that when I'm talking about even paid solutions. And one of the things I started working on that I think some people are going to have some interest in is I individually have ranted about firewalls and bad security practices at companies like FortiGate and Cisco, and Zyxel only a few minutes ago. And not that I'm going to even list the Zyxel ones, because I look at them as a really cheap one. But I'm going to cover some of the crazy security problems that were from very, very poor coding practices, SonicWall too, and it's one of those fundamental problems. I do not see those occurring over at the Netgate firewalls. They put a absolute ton of time and effort into making a very high quality firewall. That matters a lot. Now, do I absolutely love the fact that they're making this pfSense Plus? You know, like any of you, I have mixed feelings on it, but I can't deny a track history of solid, reliable firewall, and that makes it hard to think of switching at all, because that matters a lot, especially when you're, you know, the firewall is the dividing line. This is also why it's so hard for me every time someone throws some random firewall project my way. Hey, Tom, check out this firewall. Well, this has to divide me from the world, so it has to be done very concisely. And matter of fact, some of the CVEs that were out there that were in the binaries that basically pfSense is built on, for example, DNSSEC, when they had that problem with DNSSEC, the folks at Netgate were already not only on top of it and aware of it, also knew it didn't affect them. The reason it didn't affect them was because they were very careful in the way they compile things, and they actually mitigated it because they didn't use the feature anyways. It was a feature most people don't use, and that's why it took so long to find this flaw in a particular way DNSSEC was exploited. I'm not going to get into every little detail, but basically as a buffer overrun. But the way they compiled it with the flag off. That shows that they took the time to understand the flags of a small piece of a component inside their firewall, while other firewall companies were scrambling to fix it. And no one's using this feature, by the way. It was a future feature for signing certificates, and someone found a way to break it. So it's kind of an interesting thing that they've always been on top of those things. So yeah, it's, yeah. Sykesel has good switches. Yeah, sure, we'll go with switches. That crazy light in the bottom right security camera. Yeah, yeah. Kyle removed it, so now it's he fixed it. I mentioned MikroTik earlier in the video. It's inexpensive, but you have to invest the time to understanding if you want to learn the router OS. So that's definitely a thing. WireGuard is now built into TrueNAS. That was something else I wanted to talk about. And it kind of dovetails into talking about the pfSense thing. WireGuard being built in here, how do you think it got here? And it's because of the commitments made by the team over at Netgate to contribute upstream to BSD that everyone gets to benefit from. So WireGuard is implemented in here, and a lot of this comes from the fact that, you know, they put the time into the kernel. And so all the BSD downstream projects now can benefit from the time and effort. And this is something else that Netgate does and plans to continue to do, is contribute upstream. So yeah, it's just one of those things. It's been such a solid performer, and they've had a long history. So that's why when I do the video, I want to be very precise and concise of how I talk about it. But such is life. Not to mention, and we'll go over here, because this came out, and once again related to this too, their performance is crazy good on WireGuard. And the reason why it's so good isn't just because of WireGuard, because WireGuard's a protocol, but how you integrate that protocol into the kernel matters. It matters a lot. They really dove deep into the kernel because they help sponsor, and it's all open source, the kernel implementation and everything. And they break down those details of how they implemented it to make sure it had the best performance. And this is one of those types of engineering things where, like they said, they took the time to do it right, to implement it as a proper kernel space. Because other implementations that existed prior were user space implementations. And the user space implementation means you have a couple problems. You're going to get slower speed because you have overhead, you have context switching, you're taking something out of user land, switching it into the kernel and bringing it back out. That implementation not being right native in the kernel meant you did not get the performance. So you got WireGuard, which is easy to set up, but you didn't get the performance of WireGuard. So you got WireGuard in name and WireGuard in ease of use, but not WireGuard in the performance, and that's, of course, one of the factors. You don't just want something that's, you know, and I admit WireGuard has a easier to set up system, but you also want something that performs very well, and that's what they took the time to do and tune that properly over at the folks at pfSense and Netgate. Build a home lab idea with XCP-ng. I have a video on how to build your home lab with XCP-ng. I don't have one on building pfSense as a VM because, well, I mean, I think I do. I don't recommend virtualizing pfSense. It's not that you can't. It's the problem people run into all the time. When you break something in your virtualization server, don't you go to Google? But when your firewall's in your virtualization server, you can't go to Google. So that's my biggest reason, especially for home lab people. I like to have a hardware firewall at the perimeter. If you want to spin up a lab one, it makes sense, but the hardware one is so you can do things. As a matter of fact, someone actually commented how they were unable to patch updates because they really needed the internet up and running, and they had updates they needed to load, but they didn't want to reboot their virtualization server because it would have taken down their firewall to do it. And I'm like, now you understand the problem. It's kind of an aggravation. So, but yeah, I could probably make a few of them. Possible to carry Windows 8? I don't understand that question. I don't do Windows. Why would you use Windows 8? It's expired. I know I've at least touched on the Aruba and Sanan APs. Have you had experience with their switches? Yes, I did a video on them. So I've done a video on Aruba and Sanan. It works. So yeah, you do have to do the updates in right order when you get there. But Aruba and Sanan, it works. They're very basic. The cool thing about the Aruba is the fact that you do have local management on the switch. And if you want any features, you need to log into local management on the switch. Their portal is, I don't know, not very robust. They told me when I did the review the portal will get better. I did the review like 8 months ago. The portal's not any better last time I looked. It's still very, very basic. I just don't use Sophos UTM firewalls. I don't have a use case for that. That's my usual answer. If you want to use them, sure. I've talked to people. I see some people love them. Some people hate them. I don't know where to think. I know one technical friend who uses them in their office and for their deployments at their MSP, and they think they're great. I've had people tell me they just hate them, and they contact me about pfSense. And I just don't spend, when people are buying my consulting time, I don't spend a whole lot of time listening to them rant about hate because they're paying me by the hour. So they may say I don't like it and they give me some vague reason, but it's not what I dwell on. Usually it's moving forward and getting the project done and deploying what they want to get deployed. So I don't really know. I don't know how good or bad it is. I don't really feel like stopping to learn another firewall. Do you using Synology Active Backup VMs on ESXi server? Yeah, Synology Active Backup's good. I mean, use it wherever you want. I've done a few reviews on Synology Active Backup. I think it's a solid product. Possible videos on UniFi AP versus MikroTik AP? No. And the reason why, I didn't. One of my staff took the time to configure a MikroTik AP. It took a lot of swearing, a lot of aggravation, and a lot of confusion. There are so many menus he had to go into to get it working, and their APs I would not consider, that I've seen, simplistic. And everyone just says, you just have to take the time to get to know it. That's fine. I don't have the time to get to know it, so I don't really feel like digging into them. Should I get an Edge switch or a UniFi switch? It depends if you want to use the UniFi software, because the Edge switch is not as easy to use as a UniFi switch. And this comes down to, do you want to take the time to learn it? UniFi has the easiest way I've ever seen to set up VLANs. I know how to set them up. I did a video on how to do VLANs on an Edge switch. But when people watch that video, they say, oh, that takes more steps. Yes, it does. The way you have to tag and untag ports. UniFi eliminates that type of thing because they put a cool little drop-down menu. So which one do you want? Do you want something with a local interface, but maybe you know or want to take the time to know? Great, learn it. If you want to use the UniFi, that one's good too, but it does require running the UniFi controller. Maybe you want to, or maybe you don't want to run the UniFi controller. So it's not like it's an easy answer. If you're an experienced WISP, then use the UniFi AP stuff. Okay. I know there's also, like the UniFi makes a tool called Catman to help manage groups of them. But even then I looked at it and it's, once again, it's all written in the weird and complex way that UniFi does, or MikroTik does things. And defining easy is kind of a little bit of a thing. I mean, people who've never used Linux before would say Linux is crazy and hard and not know how to set things up. They're used to, if they're only ever used to using a UI for things, like in terms of setting up a Linux server with like Apache or Nginx, is it easy or hard? I don't know. That's kind of a, it depends on the person doing it. Yeah, don't use UniFi for routing. That much I will repeat, and probably everyone here will agree with. You don't really run antivirus on your firewall. It's not, most of the traffic that passes through the firewall is going to be encrypted. it's just, it's kind of pointless to try to scan with antivirus on a firewall. I know people ask about it. There are firewalls that have some of that built in, but it's of limited value because most things are encrypted. By the way, there are certainly some low quality viruses out there that are probably still sent over unencrypted channels, but for the most part, most of them are sent over encrypted channels. The nice thing is there's not too much to hardening pfSense because it by default has everything off. You have to implicitly turn things on. The only thing you may want to do is restrict the management interface to a management LAN and not the regular LAN or any subsequent VLANs. So there is that. That's not too big of a deal. I've had people do more unusual things and want to restrict it to a port on one of the network interfaces. I mean, you can go that far with it. That seems a little bit excessive, but there is that. But for the most part, it comes out of the box hardened. It does not accept incoming connections. It's always people who unharden it by opening up everything. Yes, when you move from Windows to Linux and learn how some of the automation scripting work, it is very much like magic. Oh, there's people here. So if someone walked in the door, there's people here to deal with that. Got a phone interview for Linux admin job with encrypted messaging service. Cool. Oh, whoever walked in works here? Was it a Corey? I didn't look. How many antivirus software do you install on a client machine? Never more than one. That's the right answer. And for end users, just use Windows Defender. Oh, it's just Miles. Is it bad to enable things like UPnP and pfSense? Well, bad is a little bit subjective. I think it's bad because it opens up ports automatically. You may think it's good because you need to get your Xbox working. So the problem becomes, do you want your Xbox to work or do you want to manually do it? So know what you're doing before you do it and realize you could be opening up a risk. I mean, UPnP opens up you to potential security problems, but you can also be granular and say, put this on a separate network and only allow UPnP on this separate network. And you can say things like, well, it's just a bad idea all the time. Then maybe you're not playing games that matter. And it's that trying to reach that balance of, I want to be able to play this game and what's the acceptable level of risk in order to do this. I tweeted about the new sudo CVE. It doesn't deserve a video. I did tweet about it. So there's that. Regarding the sudo exploit, have you tried doas? Perhaps you recommend su instead? No. You use sudo. They fixed it. It's a problem. They fixed it. You don't throw sudo out. They found a bug. You fix the bug, and then you continue using it. Put Xbox on separate VLAN and allow UNPP. Exactly. You create a separate network restriction. So, yeah, it kind of depends. I mean, there's always coding issues and problems that occur. It doesn't mean you get rid of said product because there was a coding error, especially when it was found and fixed right away. So there are people, so they can see my tweet on it. I said, all you have to do is sudo CVE 2021-3156 and you are root. Ha ha ha. Like I said, this has 111 likes. By the way, I bet if I go through my Twitter, I tweeted prior the actual problem. Let me find it here. I post a lot of junk on my Twitter for anyone who wants to follow me. But when I actually did the tweet on the CVE, that was the emotet ones. Huh. That's I retweeted it, but my retweet barely has, but what, a couple likes on it probably? Yeah, I tweeted it, and I know it doesn't have many likes, but the people who, because that's not how many, that's me liking that. Where does it tell you how many likes I have on it? Anyways, this is why I put things in memes, because they get better if I put them in a meme in terms of reach. What else do we have here? Easy way to back up XCP-NG VMs. Yes, using Xen Orchestra. I have a whole video on Xen Orchestra, or if you type in XCP-NG disaster recovery, I have an entire breakdown video on that topic. I drop outgoing. What? I block, by default, I block incoming traffic. I do not do egress block. That just makes your life difficult. I mean, you can do it if it makes you happy, but egress filtering doesn't, I mean, if you want to do it, but I think that's what you're trying to ask there. I like the way pfSense has it at default. How's that? It drops all incoming connections. I think that's what you're trying to ask. Sudo or sudo? We're going to go with sudo. I could be wrong. DNS filtering? Not really. I did a video on some of the DNS filtering. We have it built in with our clients. I have talked about Cloudflare's DNS filtering. I don't know. I mean, it's definitely worthwhile to use. Like Cloudflare, I think, has one of the better ones that's free out there. The best one I still think is Quad 9. Super user do. Yes, that's why I say sudo. So I think that people over at DNS Filter have a pretty nice product. So that's one of them. At least I took some time to look at and talk to them. So projects I'm excited for. Breaking this TrueNAS over here. That's something I'm going to be excited for. Putting some data on here, unplugging things, crashing it, popping these hard drives out so we can degrade the RAID array, which I can actually, storage pools. We can actually unplug one of the drives now. There we go. I'm unplugging hard drives. Oh, look. It says I've unplugged things. So, yeah, if I refresh, it's going to probably give me a degraded error here in a second. Yep, there we go. We have a degraded RAID array. So, yes, I'll be doing some videos on this because this is kind of fun. Let's plug it back in now. And, come on. There we go. Hey, look. Let's refresh and see if it's back online. I wasn't rating any data, so I put it back online. But I need to do a series of videos on all that so you can, and I'm gesturing to the screen, that's too small to see, but I'm going to be walking through the process for all that. So those are some upcoming videos I want to dive into. I want to crash RAID servers so you don't have to. I want to show you how to recover, how to bring the pools, import them, how to reload this on another drive so you can recover it. That way, how to back it up properly, because that's really important, is if you don't back it up properly, you're going to have a bad time if you have to go back to restoring it. So, yeah, those are some of the videos I'm going to be doing. Swapping disks and putting them back in a different order, that's actually irrelevant completely when it comes to ZFS. You can plug ZFS in any order you want. The order of the drives doesn't matter in the ZFS array. As long as they're all plugged into the same controller, you can arrange them in any order you want, and it'll just keep working. I have no opinions on the UniFi 6 because I haven't used it. But there's a fast way to crash TrueNAS. Delete in boot dir for FreeNAS. Yeah, if you delete the database that has the configuration, you will certainly crash it. I don't know that's even much of a challenge. This is one of the reasons backups are so important, because your FreeNAS configuration is located in that FreeNAS, the database file that has all that in there. So if you only have a single boot drive, that's fine. There's actually not a ton read-write going on a boot drive on these, so they generally hold up quite well. But one thing for sure is if that boot drive fails, you better have a backup. Now, if you have a backup, no big deal. Your data drives are separate from your boot drive. So as long as you're doing it right, away you go. Hyperconverged infrastructure test lab? I don't know. Depends how big the test lab gets. I have a lot of lab stuff, but I don't know how big of a lab I'll end up building. It kind of depends on what I have time for. What are my comments on ButterFS? It's okay. It's not great. It's not ZFS, which someone will probably come back and comment on this video and say I'm part of the ZFS cult. I've been accused of that a couple times, that I'm a cult of ZFS. Are you going to do a UniFi alternatives video? That's something I should bring up. I did a video called UniFi alternatives. What I have learned, and I even talked to an Aruba person today, UniFi is actually better than some of the other companies because you can't figure out the product offerings at all. The product offerings, it's just garbage trying to read through their websites. They are confusing. People have to link to articles. When you Google stuff, you come up with some of the wrong answers because when you go to their website, you don't have clear answers. So do I want to do it? Yes. Is there an easy way to do it? Not really. Because my Aruba friend didn't know about the Aruba Instant On and the models that have self-hosted controllers. I got a ton of people on YouTube and people contacting me telling me that Aruba offers a license-free self-hosted controller. You can't find that information on Aruba's website, and an Aruba person I talked to didn't know about it either, but said they're going to get back with me on it. So how easy is it to do is obviously, it's challenging because I'd like to do an alternatives video, but figuring out the alternatives when the companies aren't offering. By the way, the next problem you're going to run into is UniFi sells directly, or, I know they're removing a lot of it, but you can find some of it on Amazon. The other companies don't sell directly. They all do channel partners, which is part of the reason for the confusion. They train the channel partners to tell you what products to buy. And then they try to sell you the licenses and service with it. So it's not like it's just use this product all the time. There's a lot of confusion in it. It's not clear. What if you unplug a RAM? Oh, that's always fun. I'm going to do that on a different motherboard because this is our test motherboard and I don't want to break it. You can mess up the RAM popping it out on a live motherboard. I will find a crappy motherboard. Yeah, so the Mac Telecom networks like Ingenious, their syskey. By the way, we used some of the before they had the syskey, they used to give you a VirtualBox file. They used to give you an OVA file and walk you through some crazy configuration to try to get it set up for their self-hosted controller. It was terrible. The first iterations of it were bad. Then they came out with their syskey, and it's not great. Even Wendell did, if I'm not mistaken, their cloud version, not their locally hosted version, because that's what they're pushing now. So, yeah, it's just, there's a lot of bad competitors in the market. UniFi still, even after all the research, generally speaking, has one of the best self-hosted options out there compared to all the other options. The close runner-up, but still not a complete full system, but at least does have some, but not in the same price category at all, by the way, was some of the Cabium. Cabium has a way to self-host their controller, their CN Maestro, I think it's called. Cabium Networks does have it, but Cabium Networks is also way more expensive. You're not talking on like their switches specifically. They're just a lot pricier. So it's not like they're as common. And go back over to Ruckus. A few people said Ruckus. Ruckus also. Me and Chris from Crosstalk have talked about this, and Chris did a video on Ruckus. They're a lot more expensive. And figuring out the limitations. I commented on my UniFi alternatives video what the limitations were. Someone else pointed out that, yeah, that's the result when you Google it, but if you dig around, here's the new version of that article. And I'm like, why is this hard to find? In your experience, updating a bunch of OS breaks things like services and apps. I would say Ubuntu and Pop! OS as well. I'm using Pop! OS, derivative of Ubuntu. Definitely has been way smoother. Like I do, let me pull this up real quick here. Actually, you should pull it up like this. One second. So I'm running the latest version of Pop! OS right here. So this is Pop! OS 2010. And you have your April release, and then you have your October release. You have your, 04 version and your 10 version. Now, with that being said, I don't really have a problem. I do, every 6 months there's a new version, and every 6 months it updates to the new version painlessly. I don't have problems with it. Now, that is not to be said of the whole, mess with Windows 10 and the way they do theirs. Windows 10 is a little bit more flaky. But then again, there's more users of Windows 10. There's more diversity out there and more situations. So I find Linux perfectly fine and goes through the upgrades fine. But that's been my experience. I rarely have a problem. I think it feels more solid than Windows, but, maybe I'm biased. But I think all the raging, complaining people is just there. I like Debian on the servers, Pop! OS on the desktop. I think Pop! OS offers a more polished desktop experience. GrandStream is a cloud system as well, and that's part of the. I don't like companies that marry you to their cloud only, because if they shut down their cloud portal and there's no local management, you're like, there you go, it's dead now. They've decided to discontinue the portal. That happens. I talked about that in my video where I called UniFi Alternatives, because I brought up Open Mesh as just an example of a company I had actually bought their hardware that turned into a brick when, their portal went away. Well, it didn't go away. You could spend money on their portal and move over to Datto, but it's a Datto company now. So that's the problem with those. For the TrueNAS 12.1.1 disabling async cow, it's right that performance XCP hosting degrades practically sync equals always. I have not done performance testing on that. That's a little bit different. Why the L480 versus the T series? Because the L480 was on sale for a really good price. I got this laptop for a steal. So I went with the L series, which is fine. I don't really need that fast of a laptop because, most of the time I'm in a terminal doing stuff. So, yeah, this is perfectly fine to run on. Yes, this is only an Intel i5 at 3.4. By no means is this a very fast particular computer, but it works perfectly fine. So it's not what's for what I use it for. I don't play games or anything on it either, so gaming is separate from business completely for me. What is the switches in the rack? If you look at my rack video I did recently, there's a 10 gig. Oh, that one. These switches. Those are antiques. That's like a 15-year-old something. Foundry Networks. That's a really, really old Foundry Networks. We just stuck it there for looks, and it's got a frisbee on it. It's got a Bitwarden frisbee on it, encrypted frisbee. I go on site a lot less. That's the other reason. I know there's tougher versions of the laptop, but. Is there any AD 802.11 in UniFi? Yes, it's not drop in, plug and play, tie to AD, but there's ways to make it work. apt-get update, it does update all the packages provided they were installed with apt. So as long as you installed them with apt, it'll install. And I bring that up because One of the things you can do inside of Pop! OS is they have Flatpak. So if you install them via Flatpak, you have to use a Flatpak updater. Also, Pop! OS has, and we'll pull it up real quick here. Close. We got too many things open. There we go. If you're in the Pop! OS updater, right here, you would update via this. So, you know, you have all your packages, you have your installed. The updater itself will do everything on your behalf. It'll do all the Flatpak and components. So it does anything you installed, it will take care of all the updates in an automated fashion, so to speak. So, yes, pfSense can do the rolling OpenVPN. I think I have a video on that for using TOTP. So if you need TOTP with OpenVPN, you have to you have to tie it into FreeRadius. But yes, it does support FreeRadius, and FreeRadius is a package you can load on pfSense. I have a video. If you type in FreeRadius pfSense, you'll find a video on it. Yeah, apt updates the list of the packages. You're right. Apt upgrade actually upgrades them. Did you know UniFi also has broken device tagging? Okay. Yeah, spelling matters. I also recommend too, like for servers, I have a video on why you should be using unattended upgrades inside of Debian-based distributions and Ubuntu-based distributions. That's an important thing. I mention that because unless you are going to be absolutely on top of security updates and never go on vacation, you do need to push those security updates. That's where unattended upgrades plays a role. Unattended upgrades will automatically deploy them for you, and that's definitely something you should consider. These hard drives are really hot. Ow. I should probably put a fan on this. Not that these drives are any good, they're just kind of junk drives, but I can't believe the heat they're running at. I can't even keep my hands on them. Yeah, we're not using this right now anyway, so let's unplug it. Because we can just shut down ZFS. It's a copy on write file system. And that's what we're going to be doing is breaking and borking all this fun stuff. Any replacement for UniFi Dream Machine Pro with good VPN support and dual WAN? Yes, pfSense. FreeNAS, yeah, Learn Linux TV has a bunch of videos on doing updates. They actually have some how to build automation around updates. Yes, Tom needs to do a Flatpak update. Yes, I do. I don't feel like doing it while here because, I don't know. I guess I could. Matter of fact, I'm trying to remember. You can do Flatpak from the command line too. Hold on. Let's see, if we go here, what is the command? I think it's update. I think it might just be simple. Make current run, install, update. Yeah, it is just update. Looking for nothing to do. So I don't have any Flatpak updates to do. So that's, you can update Flatpak, and then for those asking, sudo, we want to update and apt-get, we'll do full upgrade here. So this command's going to apt-get update. This means do it after. That's why you have that right there. That means after you do that, the next command to run is apt-get dist upgrade. And let's see if there's any updates. It's going to go ahead and check all the repos, the groovy updates. Permission, oh, you got to say sudo. You need sudo twice. But you can put a command like that. Oh, cool. There's a couple updates. I'll say yes. I could have put a -y and it would have just upgraded them. I always like to stop and look to see what I'm updating. I'm always curious. You know, cool. I have libfprint, a new version. That's cool. I have a new time zone data with TZ data. That's cool. I don't know. I like looking at them this way. So I usually update things out of, as you can tell, I type it because of muscle memory quite a bit. So now you guys watch me updates. Oh, yeah. It does mean and the previous, and does mean the previous command was special. David G's right. Nuance matters. Me riffing right here is going to be less accurate than Jay. Jay is good at being precise. I can be precise. That's when I take the time to do a video versus me just riffing commands real quick. So, does that work on all Linux distros? No. apt is the package manager that is built into Debian and Ubuntu distros. Probably a few others too, but if they're based on Debian, they use the apt manager. Now, other places can build their own Linux distros and also use like the apt style manager, but for the most part, you're going to find that in Debian-based distributions. Arch, for example, uses Pacman. Your Red Hat variations are going to use Yum. Whoops. So, yeah, there's definitely a... Proxmox is Debian as well, so that's going to have apt in it. And XCPNG is going to use Yum for the updates. Matter of fact, I didn't update one of my servers, so we can update that one too. So what one did I not update? I got to look it up. It's one of the lab servers. I don't always update the lab servers as much, but I'm pretty sure there's an update to this, if I had to guess. Oh, there we go. I got the IP address. Switch over here. Yum upgrade. And Yum will do this one. Hey, I wonder what this is for. Looks like there might be a new version of sudo on here. So let's go ahead and say yes and replace that version of sudo. There we go. All right, sudo's up to date. We fixed it. So for those of you looking for a replacement for sudo, don't throw it away just yet. You can just go and update it, and it does include on your XCPNG machines. I didn't update the lab server yet because I was busy. But yeah, that's it. You know what? I think I didn't update it because I was going to show how to exploit it, but oh well. I can always roll it back and revert it and load a version that doesn't have that fix. So my lab server has now been updated. Do you have a video on drive and TrueNAS and boot dataset? That's what this is going to be, is my next TrueNAS videos I need to do to break a few backup and recovery things down. So this incident will be reported. My lab server is my lab server. I do keep it up to date. I haven't used it. That's why it's not up to date. We need to go back to doing stuff on it. Pip Python installer. Yes, pip is Python installer. It's pip's part of the Python package manager, not installer, but you can install packages with it. So, how to add a drive to the TrueNAS boot dataset? Yes, that is actually the other reason there's two drives here. So first is the disaster recovery video. Second, how to add a drive to the TrueNAS boot set. I got to see if there's still an easy way to do it like there was in FreeNAS. There's a way to add it in FreeNAS. It's kind of a weird way to do it, and I think there's a way to do it in TrueNAS. But more importantly, my disaster recovery video. The reason for doing a disaster recovery video is because if you have a disaster recovery video, you should be able to go, hey, I'm just going to reload it. I'm going to rebuild it as a boot mirror, because that's why you're usually recovering from disasters, because your boot drive died. And then all you have to do is restore the config, and now you can just reload it and rebuild it. So you can either rebuild it by add, or not have to rebuild it and add, or bite the bullet, reload the system with two drives and build them as a mirror, and then restore the config. And I want to make sure I have a clear video to, one, show people how to back it up and show people how to restore it. That way they have some level of confidence that once they get all of it set up, they have a reference, because it's not like this happens all the time. Hard drives are, if you load this on an SSD, they're generally reliable. So many times there's no problems. So you never really think about what the process looks like to restore or back up. You're not thinking about it. You're just using it, putting your data on it, and having a good old time. But it is good, and this is one of the reasons I like these videos, to have a reference to go, all right, I'm in a situation here where I lost it. And I did follow those procedures Tom said about backing it up. Now let's talk about how to restore it and make sure there's a clear video on how to do it. Because you're always in a panic when your server goes down, especially if it's a production server and people are banging at the door going, where's my files? And you're like, I'm watching Tom's video to restore this right now. Please be patient. Please watch it beforehand. The Elasticsearch changes, they're complicated because they made the changes. I didn't discuss it. It's something that I haven't read a lot into. I surface skimmed. I did not dive deep into this. At first, I seemed to see a lot of people mad at them for their license change. Then Elasticsearch did like an amended change, so to speak, to say they did it because they're being targeted by Amazon to compete with them. And I get it. Like that, if they're doing it to stop Amazon from stealing their business, if I understood the surface, if I'm completely wrong, let me know. I was going to wait to read on it. It just comes down to a lot of convoluted license arguments that I'm not going to say that I don't care, as I care about them. I just didn't understand the details enough to be coherent and have a strong opinion. I think they should remain open source. They seem to be wanting to do that, but I don't know. And I tweeted out another company that seems to be having a competing idea against that. So I'm not exactly sure. My son is messaging me. Yes, son. Should I answer the other message you sent me? The private message I see popping up on my screen? Because my son is messaging me. Why did you message me? What did you want, child? Oh, you're sending me pandas. Thank you for the panda pictures, Marcus. That's my son. Going with Unraid, I have 4 2TB drives. What would RAID be better to use, please? I don't do Unraid, so I don't know. I am not the person to ask because I'm not an Unraid user. Gamechanger Cable is a video I did called Gamechanger Cable. If you watch the beginning of this video, I just talk about some of the weird complaints that someone had about it. So, what do I think about OMV versus TrueNAS? Use it if it makes you happy. Marcus wants pizza. Oh, when are you going to the home? I will be home by the 7:30. Which means I have to wind. I live very close, so I have a little bit more time. But I will be home by 7:30, Marcus. I can tell my son on a live stream. All of you now know what time I'll be home. I have now failed OPSEC 101 of letting people know where you are and when you'll be there. Oh, lots of people want pizza. You're going to start a pizza thing. Love the aesthetic of Pop! OS. Yeah, I thought about doing more Pop! OS videos. Jay's done some very good, solid, in-depth videos of Pop! OS, and he understands it deeper than I do. See, one of the problems sometimes is I spend probably a lot of time to have a very wide depth of knowledge, and Jay, for example, doesn't even really use Windows. Jay doesn't really use TrueNAS. So he's able to focus more, or he's really good at it too, and give you some more concise things. But he also has a lot more knowledge on some of the DevOps tools and things like that. This is one of those challenges of how much it takes a lot of time to get really deep into one particular topic. And I'm like, do I want to keep covering it? Jay, I think, does a better job than me because he understands Pop! OS better than me. So it kind of becomes that kind of question of how much time should I spend doing Pop! OS videos? I'm a big enthusiast of it, but the videos really, I thank you for all of you asking for them, but if I look through my history of Pop! OS videos, they do not get a lot of views. Jay from Learn Linux TV, I'm sorry. Yes, let me clarify that. Jay from Learn Linux TV. VM corrupting with TrueNAS. We run TrueNAS and XCP-ng and don't have corruption, but I don't know what situation you have, and it's not going to be the same situation we have. So, yeah, possibly UDM Pro and multi-site support. Hey, it only took them 6 years to give us a thing that has basically been a feature of other firewalls forever. So, yeah. I'm not even, I slowly, I don't get excited about UniFi and networking in terms of their switches. I'm sorry, in terms of their routers. I like their switches. I like their access points. Excuse me, I got hiccups. I do not care much for their routers. They are like so slow and incrementally getting better, and it's just not great. Have you run a UniFi controller in a FreeBSD deal? So it's not, there's some quirkiness to running it in a BSD jail. So no, I don't really spend much time doing it. It's not that it can't be done. It seems more difficult to keep it up to date. TrueNAS possible with low amount of RAM due to ZFS. ZFS needs, I mean, the minimum RAM you're going to want on a TrueNAS system, minimum is 8 gigs. I probably recommend 16. I don't know, what is that a low amount to you? In modern times, that's not as low as it used to be, but you can use it fine. It works great at 8 gigs. You got to remember, ZFS, this machine right here only has 8 gigs in it. ZFS will use all the extra unused memory to cache. So if you give it 32 gigs, that's what makes people say, oh, it's memory hungry. No, it just doesn't waste memory. It puts, if you have a bunch of files, it goes, hey, I'll just cache those. Why not? What else is the RAM being used for? So David G says when he got into IT, everything was exciting and is now really find things as mind-boggling and interesting. I feel like I learned everything there was more, or does anyone feel like that? Sometimes that's where you have to kind of push yourself into diving deep into like hypervisors or diving deep into some other technology, because there is kind of a point you kind of, I don't know, I don't want to say I've lost any enthusiasm, but sometimes I do get a little bit bored with some things. I kind of got bored with a lot of the Windows stuff and it doesn't excite me. So, you know, any updates and changes to Windows Server, I mean, here's the problem. I've clearly given the impression that we're some type of powerhouse Linux users here, when the reality is, outside of Tom, we're managing Windows stuff all day long. That's actually what makes my company the money. So I just don't have I don't like it that much. Do I know how to use it? Yeah, I can muddle my way through and I do Windows stuff. It's what our client base has. But it's not I have no enthusiasm for Windows. So I can feel that way specifically, David, about Windows, but I don't really feel that way about technology overall. But I just keep diving deep because there's always something new to play with. You know, I was excited. I spent a while diving deep into Nebula, for example, because I thought it was a fascinating protocol in the way it was architected. So somewhere in between, I guess. I don't use Unraid. I don't have a use case for that. I know a lot of people like Unraid. Go for it. I don't think it's a bad thing. I just don't use it myself. Move into management. Oh, I dislike managing people a lot too. I have 3 times more people watching my live stream than someone with 2 times more subs. I guess it depends on the content, Marcus. That's my son pointing it out. I'm almost a cool... Marcus, am I a cool dad because I'm a YouTuber? Yeah, I mean, it really kind of depends. Sometimes I have to, you go AFK. I like to go out in the woods or ride my motorcycle. That's sometimes my way, because I think getting away from technology helps a lot too. Sometimes I just go for walks. People ask me about YouTube channels. I follow like Technology Connections, AVE blog. I watch Aging Wheels. That guy's videos he's funny. I watch a guy talk about weird cars. So I definitely take time away from tech sometimes because I think that helps. Because I certainly have a level of enthusiasm I like my old Honda motorcycles. I'll play with those for hours. Why am I playing with a motorcycle made in the 70s? Because it's cool and it's like something fascinating to me. So that's my getaway from technology. Because sometimes I guess, yeah, I do just need to go AFK. Is my son into IT? No, my son likes video games. I do not watch much Linus at all. I think Linus, he covers a lot of good technology topics. He covers a lot more consumer technology, and I am not a gadget person, so that doesn't interest me. Even the closest I come to being a gadget person is my phone. I have a Pixel 4 XL, and for example, I did watch like KVHD do videos on it. So I mean, it's not like I don't do it. So the, I don't know. I'm not, that's what my biggest reason is that he doesn't cover a lot of content that I'm deeply interested in most of the time. He also skims over things very lightly without going, he's not an in-depth on everything he does. Sometimes he'll have an in-depth video. I even think I tweeted his video he did where they were sorting out like NVMe arrays. I mean, there's times when he gets technical and I find that very interesting, but when he's skimming over things, I'm less interested in it. I brought that up last week when we were talking about, Network Chuck came to mind. And I don't have any problem with Network Chuck, but I will admit, Network Chuck, I don't watch all of his videos because they don't seem to go very in depth. He gives you a lot of concepts, places, and starting points, which is great. Some people really need that. Like someone earlier asked about, how do I subnet? I don't cover some of the basics. There's enough channels, in my opinion, covering basics that I like to go deeper in the weeds, so to speak, and dive more into technical topics. That's kind of how I look at with YouTube. There's enough people and enough good content creators to fill the niche. Did you just turn on a computer yesterday and you're learning technology? Or are you like David G here going, I know hypervisors, I know David G's commented on really good things about fiber and some other, David G's got a pretty broad, long history in technology, so he does know quite a bit about it. So, which is why David G's probably here, is because he probably appreciates the deeper in the weeds type discussions, which is fine. That's where I prefer to be right now. Secure network with Minecraft servers open to the outside. Chuck has enthusiasm for beginners. Absolutely. I mean, some beginners come here and some people go, you just talked way over. I get some weird comments on some of the, like I did a video on HA proxy and someone says, I don't think I understood most of the words you said because I don't even know what a proxy is. And I'm like, well, thank you for watching a video on proxies when you don't understand firewalls yet. I mean, probably not the best place to start. Learn way over here and work your way this way is probably a better idea. So. Yes, David says he likes being deep in the weeds. We'll go with that. Family name is Lawrence, for those wondering. Okay, so David's probably a lot like me, just kind of a broad generalist in a lot of... it's 25 years of working in tech, like as a job, 25 years now, I think it's roughly, that I've had a job in technology, not just as a hobby. You just end up with a broad skill set of you did this or did that. You just kind of learn it over time. Yes. Trying to figure out jumbo frames. Don't unless you really feel compelled you have to do jumbo frames. It's not the end-all solution. I see people really pushing for it. We had to deal with someone who kept corrupting and breaking VMs because they misconfigured jumbo frames across several switches for the way they had things set up. It's like the performance difference is not night and day. It's not like it's like fine-tuning stuff. Make sure you know what you're doing before you do it is probably what I'm getting at. It's not that I'm saying not to do it. Make sure you have it configured properly. Is there a way to block HTTPS from proxy in pfSense? That would break most of the internet. That the modern internet would probably break it. So not really. There's no good way to do it. And it's a terrible idea to do. So I would say that's a terrible idea to break HTTPS. I don't recommend it at all. Yeah, that'll break the internet. Matter of fact, more and more websites won't. Only thing they use HTTP for is a redirect to HTTPS. I believe a lot of secure sites will just pretty much block it. Don't forget Discord. Oh, yeah, yeah. I do have the Discord channel. Where'd it go? I'm such not a... And I randomly pop into Discord. So I'll bring that up again. Yeah, so yeah, someone said to answer the question, you can block things in there, but it's not really, yeah. It's a terrible idea to block HTTPS. That's bottom line. So, hey, look, people are figuring out that I have a Discord. I do pop in and say hi every now and then. Now, the problem with Discord, the bigger problem, I don't go in here all the time. It's like my forums. I have scheduled times I go in, you know, when I find time, I block off like some period of time to go answer all the questions in the forums. And when I do that, I reply to everybody and I can see any unread messages and it's very organized. That's why I love forums so much. To me, Discord is just a chat place. There are people who are more active than me in there, which is great. But I don't have, because I have so many meetings or projects I work on, I have to turn off distractions like messaging or I will not get things done. That's why I don't always use... That's also why I don't... this is funny. This is also why I don't spend a lot of time in here, because it's not like the real-time interaction I have time for. And I don't want to leave people hanging on questions. I'll see someone ask a question, but I didn't log into Discord but once a day. Therefore, they went 24 hours. I usually go into forums. And by the way, when you put a question in forums, you'll find that many people asked that question already, and you'll find your answer. Not to mention, right now my forums get like 5,000 views a day because it's been a long time buildup of collection of people in there answering questions. So there's so much information there. That's exactly why I like it. I like, though, occasionally sitting down at the computer, and I'll just chat with people because I am occasionally social on technical topics, like right now. So I will go into Discord and just chat it up, but just don't expect me to answer in-depth questions there all the time because I may or may not be there for a while. So the internet's supposed to be encrypted. That's why you don't block HTTPS. Oh, let's see. Yeah, don't block HTTPS because everything uses HTTPS. That's fair enough. Most websites will stop working. That's a good reason. Most websites will stop working if you do that. Don't break websites. Yeah, I don't have a separate hot sauce channel. I don't do enough hot sauce content to do it. Hot sauce videos also lost me subscribers, so I just mention hot sauce on my vlog Thursdays now. Oh, man. Is there any more final questions? Because I do have to leave soon. Ooh, all these more people. Hello, stream. I mean, I got both chats going up, so I'm seeing where someone's asking. What other Discord servers are on there? I don't know. I see Willy, Home Lab, Crosstalk, Penguin Con, How They Got Hacked, Craft Computing, TechTubers, Ubiquity, Darknet Diaries, Techno Tim. I didn't know I joined his. That's interesting. David and Security Onion. And that's my cousin. That's not public. So that's all the ones I'm on. Only the good sites use HTTPS. Yeah. Sir, giveaways. I need to learn how to do giveaways. I don't have a problem with giveaways. I need to learn how to do that. I need to just look at someone's process for doing it. It's on my to-do list. Because I thought about someone might love to have a Cisco switch. So I thought, hey, I did the video and I only need one to do further videos on because I don't really need two I just needed two to do the stacking, but I didn't think about giving it away. So I just got to find a fair and proper method that also doesn't violate any terms and conditions, so I can give away things. So yeah, I think I do want to do giveaways because I think it's kind of cool. I like helping people out. I like the idea of, especially because I'm starting to pile up things. Now, some things I need to keep because I need to do demos, but when I have duplicates of things, I don't mind, figuring out ways to give them away. So yes, I did a Zabbix video. So we still use Zabbix, by the way. I still like Zabbix. I need to do a new Zabbix video because a new version of Zabbix is great. The problem is Zabbix is complicated, and I need to spend a lot of time to compile the video for it. So that's... Discord has a bot to do giveaways. That's interesting. I want to do it probably on YouTube because I know not everyone that follow... there's probably... I have way more people on YouTube than I have in my Discord, and I probably expect it to be that way because I realize that there's... If you drew a Venn diagram of my subscribers in Discord, it's not exactly a circle. It's not a 1-to-1 ratio. And because I probably spend more time on YouTube and interacting with that audience, that's the audience I would like to give things away to. One of the things because I've done giveaways before with my retail business, I used to do these cool giveaways and charity things. And one of the things I always worked towards, we used to have this pay it forward giveaway. And I did it every Christmas. This was years ago. And with the Pay It Forward giveaway, just to give you guys a concept of it, I would give things away, but people would write us. It was very local, so it would not work because it doesn't scale very well. Matter of fact, it had its own challenges of scalability working in a geographically small area. We would nominate families. We'd have people nominate families who needed things. And sometimes these families were too proud to say that they were in need of things, like technology-wise. So other people in their family would nominate them, and we would then give away computers to people. It was expensive, but, we got to give away a handful of laptops to people that needed some new technology. So I like doing things like that, and I like them when they have a component of helping someone out. Because if someone doesn't need the help, like they already have a big pile of equipment, it's less exciting to give them someone. But to think I helped someone who's just getting started with a home lab, just getting started in technology, and this piece of hardware really helps them as a key component of something they couldn't easily afford, that's the giveaway that makes me happier than just giving it to random people who just fill out the form, that are just going to take it and stick it on eBay. Or maybe I'm overthinking it, and I could be completely overthinking it, but I think you probably get the premise. I'd like to have a direct impact to help someone versus just a bunch of people who fill things out, or especially people who create like a multitude of email addresses to up the odds, fill them out, win it, and just stick it on eBay just to make money off of it. I don't know, that's my challenge with giveaways, and maybe I'm overthinking it. Feel free to leave comments below on your thoughts on that type of thing. So I'm preparing to offer for a customer for a study project. I'm not exactly sure. I don't understand that question, maybe. Oh, Marcus says the Wi-Fi is laggy, go home. Okay, fair enough. I do have to leave. It is 7:17. Thank you for everyone who joined me over here, and thank you for everyone who's over here joining on the Discord. Let's see. Tom's going to get in trouble for being late, yes. So thank you, everyone. Glad all of you were here. Look forward to doing more videos and diving deep into technology and all that fun stuff. Thanks for watching and all that fun stuff. You guys have a wonderful night. Look for more videos, etc. Head to the forums, head to the Discord where I randomly say hi and all that fun stuff. And I'll see you next time.